down the field, how to pass, and how to evade the opposition team, how to shoot the goal, right? What if we sat them in the stands and we told them all about that, but we didn't really let them out onto the field until the actual game? Well, that would be a terrible way to coach any sport, as I'm sure you would agree. So we need to provide opportunities for students to work with what they're learning. And I'll just say here briefly that we know that active learning makes a big difference in student pass rates, especially in STEM. It does create more inclusive environments and outcomes. But we also know that students are very busy people. So you can tell students, hey, you should quiz yourselves with flashcards, for example, but students may not actually get around to doing those things. So I really like to think about how we can structure opportunities for our students. We know that these, just as we were talking earlier about targeting our practice, that it really is important for students to practice the appropriate skills and not, for example, reread material that isn't as relevant. We need to help them figure out what are the ways that they can use their skills appropriately based on what they're learning. So let's assign learning activities based on what they are going to be able to do to practice that new information, and let's structure those activities as well. I have a couple of ideas here from artificial intelligence ways of going about this. So here's a very simple one, and if you know me and my work, you know that I really love to incorporate small teaching approaches, which is really just things that are based in learning science that don't require a huge burden of time either in creating the activity or grading the activity. Maybe they don't take a lot of time during class, but they have an outsized impact on student engagement and learning because they're based on the science of learning. So this one is simply to ask ChatGPT, for example, to, I don't know what this slide says ChatGPT, but basically we can ask students to complete reading guides or video watching guides. It helps them stay focused, and it helps them organize that new information the way that we were talking about as well. We can also ask students to complete weekly quizzes. Again, you can tell your students you should quiz yourself, you should get into study groups, you should ask each other. Those are the very effective ways to study as opposed to reading and rereading, right? Really retrieving that information from where it is stored in long-term memory is far more effective because it strengthens the neural pathways. It makes that information easier to get to when we need it. But maybe students aren't going to get around to self-study in the way that we think is best. So I'm a real big fan of assigning weekly quizzes, not only to hold students accountable for doing the reading and the watching, but also to help them retrieve that information. And we can also, along this line, we can ask students to complete partial concept maps. And this is the